Welcome to Creation in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Carl Ball, founder and director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. We have a program for you today with an incredibly qualified guest, and the title of the program is Evolution Expelled. Now, what do we mean by that? And our guest, an eminent scholar, is going to verify that from the halls of academic fact, evolution has been expelled. If we talk about evolution from the concept of microvariation within genetic boundary, that is no problem whatsoever. That has been observed in field excavations, that has been observed in laboratory experiments. In principle, it is correct. But as we reshuffle the genetic information, we lose viability, but we certainly get variation, but all within the genetic information that's already in place. If, however, by evolution, we mean, as the common concept is expressed and propagandized, if we mean lower life forms developing gradually or by punctuated rapid equilibria until we go from slime to PhD or crustaceans to primates, if we mean by evolution a graduation with an increase in genetic information that has never been observed in the fossil record, all the fossil record demonstrates is a fixity of kinds and variation that were all present simultaneously. It has never been observed in the actual laboratory experiments because we cannot increase the genetic information. We can vary it, but we lose viability. My guest today is one of our most qualified guests that I've had over the years, and periodically he is asked to return because he has an incredible message to deliver. My guest is Dr. Joseph Mastropalo. Dr. Mastropalo, it's a delight to have you back on the telecast again today.
It's my pleasure to be here, Dr. Ball.
You have a background in biology and kinesiology, and you're a credentialed scholar. Tell us what kinesiology might be.
Biomechanics and physiology of the human, mainly. Experimental animals, secondarily.
Well, to show that you are eminently qualified, in fact, I don't think you have anyone better qualified than are you. To show that you are, there was an experiment run called the Gossamer Albatross, and I watched it decades ago. I watched it with fixity of intent. Who was the lead scientist and designer on that experiment?
I blush to say I was.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. And it demonstrated what?
It demonstrated that what people had said was impossible to achieve physiologically, that is to fly by one's own power as a human being, which is just barely possible theoretically, that it could not be done because teams all over the world had been trying for 16 years in vain, had not succeeded. They said it couldn't be done. We did it by applying a new theory which reconfigured the muscle cell. So with these new reconfigured muscle cells in the pilot engine, the prize was won.
Marvelous. And the prize was how much money?
50,000 English pounds.
That was a lot of money. How many years ago?
About 30 years ago.
And the pilot was the engine.
Correct.
And you have a photograph in training, in preparation. You actually were better qualified than the younger pilot who flew it in many respects.
Mostly in age. I was double his age.
But you were in extremely good health.
I was able to put out enough power to fly. This is actually me in the aircraft, so it proves that I had the power to fly. And had he failed, I could have taken his place and possibly won the prize.
This is marvelous. This is you, the scientific designer and kinesiologist and head of the scientific nature of the venture, actually flying the Gossamer Albatross. Now, he flew it by your training and supervision over the English Channel, is that right?
Well, this was the Condor, which flew the figure 8 with pylons 1 mile apart. Then this was the Albatross, which here is setting a world's record by flying for more than an hour. I took this photograph. It's Brian Allen who is flying it. And here's Brian Allen training on the bicycle ergometer, the training program that I gave him to reconfigure his muscles so that he could win the prize. And here he is flying across the English Channel.
Which is how many miles?
Minimum 22 miles, but practically 30 miles because the navigation wasn't perfect.
And when he got to the other side, you told us before, he was totally exhausted but made it.
Yes, Dr. McCready asked me 2 days before he flew how long could he last, because it was known there would be headwinds from as far away as 6 miles off the coast of France. This was going to be from the English to the French coast. And he asked, how long can he last? I went to the data from the bicycle ergometry, and I calculated that he should be able to last 170 minutes with the power necessary to fly. He landed in 169 minutes, and we broke open the canopy. He fell out. He said he wasn't able to go any further.
And he didn't need to go any further. And you had calculated it precisely. And so you had the obstacles. You had your opposition in a wind that increased the peril factor.
Yes.
Now that you have been established in the minds of this audience as a credentialed professional in the area of biochemistry, in the area of biology, which you studied, of course, and majored in, and the reflex and response of the human physiology, plus living systems, when you performed this incredible feat, or were responsible for the performance of this incredible feat, I believe you were an evolutionist at that time. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
But you're not an evolutionist at this time.
No, I'm not.
We want to know why and what the implications are. In fact, let's introduce the audience to the principle that has imperiled the lives with a counter headwind, as if we might take from the data we just learned. We have, with a counter headwind, imperiled the lives of countless individuals over long centuries of time with a theory of naturalism. In the past, I held to this theory. In the past, you held to this theory. But we're going to see before this program is over why you have abandoned that theory, what the repercussions are, and what the advice might be to this audience. That theory is, of course, naturalistic evolution. You and I bought into it decades ago. The concept that everything originated naturalistically and progressed randomly according to naturalistic tendencies, where rather simple compounds and characters in the sea and the slime progress to more complicated compounds and characters or individuals or living systems, and bifurcation into plants and animals, and then the introduction of the Mesozoic era, the age of the reptiles, and the introduction of the age of the mammals, and finally presenting as the supreme, premier example of evolution, the mind of man. And that is the naturalistic theory, in a nutshell, that the universe produced us, requiring no designer, no supernatural agent, and no accountability. But you, Dr. Mastropalo, have engineered an incredible research program questioning if naturalistic evolution is viable. Would you take us through that program?
I would be glad to, Dr. Ball. I'd like to start here, well, perhaps here. Are we the stewards or are we the animals?